Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Alchemy Lounge podcast. We have a beautiful guest with us today. We have the gorgeous Jen Sankey, who is a fellow witch, and I'm so excited to have you on the show with us today. It's always nice when we have our beautiful like-minded souls on the podcast. So I will hand over to you, my love, just to introduce yourself to our wonderful listeners.
Okay, my name is Jen Sankey, like we just established. I'm a witch, tarot reader, author, teacher. I speak at events. Really, I tend to call myself like a witch because, you know, if you are in this realm, you know, we have so many different modalities and things that we do. Like I could sit here for the next hour listing it all off. So it's really just, I do the things, and they're witchy things. So yeah, I have been practicing since I was young. I started tarot when I was about 12. And, my practice just kind of evolved through that. And then I started teaching. And then from there, I started writing. And I did readings throughout and healings. I'm a crystal healer, Reiki master, like I said, all the things. So it's just a little bit about me.
I love that. And every being on this planet is so multifaceted. And, I am very much against being put into boxes. So yeah, we can enjoy all the things. We don't necessarily have to label it. But I love the exploration. And similar to you, I was around 12, 13 when I started reading tarot as well. That was my little entryway. And I was I want to play with these. What do these do?
Exactly. And you saw a couple of movies and you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
And the movies, it's always so funny because the movies make it so scary and gloom and doom. You're gonna pull this card. But I'm like, woo, what is this? Gloom and doom. Let me see what this is about.
Yeah.
It's just so funny how some of us are just oh my gosh, get those away from me. And then some of us are like, oh, let me see what that is. We're talking, scary things and what? And then you realize, oh, it's not any of those things.
Yeah.
It's something totally different. So it's always very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone who is still kind of on the outsides of this world, I mean, anyone who listens to my podcast knows that I talk about witchy things all the time. But for anyone who is what does this mean? What does it mean to be a witch or witchy or into this kind of stuff? How would you describe it to someone who's kind of on the outside?
I think for me, it's really about just choosing your own path, choosing, what resonates with you, and then making that your practice, making that who you are, and also realizing that we call it a practice because it's ever changing. Yeah. And you are constantly learning and you never stop learning. And somebody, there's a witch beginner group somewhere, and I'll kind of offer things sometimes. And somebody was like, yeah, I've been practicing for 40 years, but I feel like I still don't know anything. And I'm like, that's great. That's awesome, because you're not ever going to know anything. And I happen to have 4 kids. And I always tell them too, though, the minute you think you know everything is when you actually know nothing. Yeah. So I think it's just being able to curate what you believe, how you believe, bring it into the physical plane, and be able to really find out who you are and define who you are. Because, and there's nothing wrong with structured religion. If people want to do that, that's totally up to them. But again, it is very structured, and they're like, you need to believe this, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I never resonated with that. And as a child, we moved around a lot. My parents were they weren't stellar parents, let's put it that way. So we moved around all the time. And I went to probably every denomination church we went to because, they feed the poor kids. That was me. So I was very food driven. I'm going to be completely honest about that. They're like, oh, you want to come to this Bible study and get lunch? And I'm like, yeah, just because my parents kind of forgot to do that a lot. So, but now in hindsight, it was, I can look back at it with this childlike perspective, not having any judgment either way. And really just, sorry,
kitty.
And just really, see how it, this denomination or this religion said, oh, do this, but don't talk to them. You know, next week I'm over there getting lunch, and they'd be like, do this, but don't talk to them. And I'm just like, well, I already did. So I think, I think by doing that, I kind of got an interesting perspective on all different things. So I did what I wanted and I didn't want.
Yeah, I love that. And I've definitely had similar experiences as well of like the boundaries and like the limitations of different kind of paths. And I think that's one of the things that really does appeal to me about like witchcraft in general, is that it is so open and available to everybody. And you can also have a separate religious path and still practice the craft. Like there's no what's the word? Like there's no judgment, there's no sort of like segregating people. Like it's remembering that we are all one consciousness. And I love that. And I think it's really unifying, which, I think is beautiful. So you started really young as well.
I did.
So what came after the tarot for you? What was like the next?
Well, it actually, before tarot, I was like the weird kid in the woods making potions out of sticks and rocks and looking for the fae. So we kind of started there, like to kind of jump back further. But then we got tarot and we moved into that. And I think from there, really just starting to understand the moon and working with the moon and that sort of thing. I went through like the Wicca, kind of program, the year and the day thing. Decided that wasn't for me. I guess that's the most structured you'll get in paganism, I suppose, is that and that wasn't really, it was just too much for me. Hold on. My cat is breaking into the trees and she's going crazy.
She's so smart.
She is. She's too smart. Okay. So I think that just kind of moving into, what that was and what that structure was. And I was kind of like, it's a little too close to what I'm not really loving, but I do appreciate the experience.
Yes.
So I do think that's a part of it too, is that we get to read and learn and talk to and experience these different facets of witchcraft, of paganism. And then we could kind of choose what works for us and what doesn't. And the most important thing though, and for me with tarot too, is I do think it's really important to learn kind of the base of things so that you have a stronger base to build on. And I feel like it makes your practice just more colorful and more, evolved. And then you could see, again, by going through and learning all these different things, what works for you and what doesn't. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah, for sure. That's why a lot of the work that I do, like we bring in the psychology as well, so that you have that understanding of what works for you and why, and then what doesn't. Because something that I needed, and I think it's like the analytical side of me, like I had to understand, well, why does this work? Like, why do I feel different at different like moon phases? And like once I started my periods and things, I was like, why am I like syncing up with these cycles? And like, what's going on? Like I needed to know
something
the science behind it. I was like, this is weird. And like, even though I'd had like all the weird like paranormal goings on as like a really young kid, I was like, I need an explanation.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. And I think you get to that point too. It's like, then that you're really starting to, encompass everything that's going on, because okay, well, I get the base stuff, like you said, I get all that, but why? What is the why and how does it work? And, when you do that too, that's also jumping into shadow work and all of that. And that's something too that a lot, I think just anybody who's practicing, you're gonna come across it, because again, you're growing, you're doing all these things. And I think it's just learning how to take it slow and work through it. And sometimes things need to be just put down and left alone for a while, and that's okay. And it's just about not trying to rush it. Don't rush the process. And I think we're so conditioned just by society, by social media, that we have to learn everything and know everything right away. And by doing that, you are just kind of cheating yourself, so it's like that jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing, and there, and unfortunately, I think like COVID really kind of blossomed a lot of that.
Yes.
And, you know, they're like, oh, this looks fun. Let me do this. I got time. I can't go anywhere. But then it's like when those blocks and when that shadow stuff started popping up, they're like, whoa, 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 I don't want to deal with this. I'm not doing any of this business. So it is interesting. It's interesting to just see how it does evolve for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's safe and it's okay if you outgrow something.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's certain things and practices that I am like, now I don't need them anymore. Like they were a certain part of my life and like I've grown and like evolved beyond them. Doesn't mean I'll never go back to them. Like they're always there, and that's it. It's almost like having that sense of play around all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that it's okay to pick and choose and kind of go back to what aligns with you, and, you know, take what lands and leave what doesn't, I think is.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that goes for people too. You know, you might start your practice and be like, really resonate with a certain person or how they're teaching. And then as you grow and you kind of like, wait a minute, it's not really hitting anymore. Like it's okay to be like, you know what? Thank you for your service. Now moving on, you know? And I think people, you know, I think because sometimes of structured religion, people feel like they have to like stick with one person always, you know, and you know, well, I started learning from so-and-so, so I have to be dedicated to them forever, just like you would in a structured religion. And I think too, it's just reminding people like, no, you can still honor what they taught you, but you can learn from different people and get those different perspectives. And it's also kind of like getting tarot readings from other people when you're a tarot reader. I love that. You know, I love seeing how people, you know, start their readings. How do they shuffle? How do they go about doing it? And I think it's such a learning experience. And then a lot of times people have different perspectives on the cards that maybe you hadn't thought of. Maybe it doesn't even resonate with you, but you might be doing a reading for someone and you might think of that and be like, oh, you know, so-and-so told me this, but I think it would really work for this person. And then you can share that information.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's lovely. And it's lovely to be on like the receiving side as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I say this all the time, like as much as, I can read tarot myself, but it's beautiful to have that from someone else. And the same with coaching. Like, yes, I can coach myself through stuff. Doesn't mean that I want to, because that's my job. So I quite like to be able to have someone else to guide me through that and see the things that I can't see because I'm in it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think, you know, and that even goes just being a woman, like we're conditioned to just take care of it all ourselves, not ask for help, right? We're not supposed to do that. We're just supposed to take care of it. And then again, you're losing that experience of connecting with somebody else and, you know, how they read and what they have to offer you. And then it's, you know, maybe you meet someone down the line that you know, maybe you were going to do a reading for, but you didn't really resonate. Like you guys aren't like, it's just the energy's not matching, but you could be like, you know what? I have so-and-so that I think would really work for you. And I've done that. I mean, that's happened. It's just what it is. And I feel that a lot of just tarot readers or people just practicing whatever their divination is or energy work or whatever, sometimes they just feel like, oh, I'm a failure, I didn't do it, or they try to push through and then the reading's not as authentic and doesn't, you know, it's just not going to work, like to know when to call it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about manifesting, because I know that you like use the moon for your manifesting as well, but I would love to know like what's along with the moon, like how did you integrate like the witchy side with manifestation?
You know, I think it was just kind of through my own practice. Like I wrote my book, and here, I'm going to show it, you know, shameless plug. Hello. Oh my God, there it is.
Beautiful.
It's manifesting. So really, you know, and it's like 380 pages or whatever. So I kind of did all the work so you didn't have to, you know, that's really what it came down to. And for you know, the last couple of years, whatever. And I feel like it's just kind of leaning towards the, you know, the not so great, you know, like, they just, whatever, it's fine, you know, they're manifesting, big deal. But I do, you know, I really wanted to kind of bring it back home, bring it back to the base of everything. And it's manipulating energy, and that is magic. And that's what we do, you know, and everybody's capable of doing that. You don't have to be a witch to do magic. You know, we are just more, you know, in tune with it, and then we know more, and that's always good. But manifesting is magic, just like blowing birthday candles out is magic. You know, it's like that spell work. So I really, you know, I really dove into manifesting, the psychology of it and all that. Like, I'm a big psychology nerd, you know, and I love reading, like you said, like the why do we want to manifest? What happens when, you know, like what happens to us as we manifest? And as we manifest, we do change, because sometimes we set this intention of what we want, but as we're working through it, we're like, you know what, that's not actually what I wanted. I kind of wanted this. But a lot of people at that part just freeze because they think that they ruined it. Like, I started doing all the things I was supposed to do, and then it changed. So, oh crap, what do I do? Start over? Do I stop? Do I do this? Do I do that? You know, and then they freeze. So by aligning it with the moon and the moon phases and the different energy of the phases, it's kind of curating like your own little moon manifesting map. And that you have kind of this focused magic energy plan of what you want to do. And I talk about what happens if it changes midway, because a lot of times, probably half the time it does. Because as you're working through, and I use tarot, I use spells, ritual work, gods and goddesses, all of that. And you can use all of them, or you can just use the tarot, or you could just, you know, create your moon altar and that's it. So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure book, really, when it comes down to it. But in the first part of the book too, it's the work, and it's really, or preparation rather. And it's really giving you the background of all of it. Like what is manifesting? What is it that you're actually doing? And a lot of times people want to manifest things, but they just think, you know, okay, well, I could just say an affirmation and that's it, it's going to happen, right? And there are a lot of programs out in social media, manifest what you want in 10 days, you know, and it's like, what? So I think first of all, it's just backing away from all of that. You know, I do believe, you know, and if you do want to work with somebody in a manifesting way, it's really making sure you do your research. Talk to people that they have worked with. Ask them questions. If you have somebody that is really true to what they do, they won't have any problem answering the question. You know, if they're like, no, I'm not talking to you. You have to, you know, make a consultation for $500. You're probably going to skip that person. But most people, a simple question, it's very easy. It takes 2 seconds, and nobody has trouble, you know, wanting to do it. But I think too, you know, when you start bringing in the moon, and then you really start understanding what you are going for, and like the almost the psychology of why I want what I want. And then you have the manifesting, you know, and then it's the action steps. You are not bringing, if there are no action steps, nothing's happening across the board. You know, even when you do spell work, if you're just like light a candle and be like, oh, this is what I want, bibbidi bobbidi boo, that's it. It's not going to happen. You know, there needs to be action steps. So, you know, by adding a lunar practice into it, it also helps you to curate those steps, and then adding the physical part of it, the spell work, you know, the journaling and those things. And it's all just helping to kind of integrate it all. And then, you know, it helps, again, you know, okay, well, this phase, I have to do these actions. At this phase, I have to do these actions. And at the end of the moon cycle, you may not have gotten your full manifestation of what you wanted, but you know what? You're probably a whole lot closer, or it's redefined, and now you know what you really want.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of my favorite things when it comes to the moon cycles, but also the seasons. Like, it helps me feel organized and plan. So even if like you're in the most chaotic, like shitstorm of your life, if you follow those phases, at least you know, okay, well, for the next like 28 days, I've got some sort of structure in my life, and it's going to help me sort of stay focused on what I do want, rather than the chaos that might be happening in reality right now. Exactly. So I think that's really lovely. Yeah. To be able to do that.
Yeah. And it gives you that, you know, and it gives you that structure without tying you down to it, because you're creating that, you know, you're doing that for a purpose, for a reason, not just because somebody told you to do it. So I think that's really an important part of it too, because you get to do it. And, you know, I know there are people out there like me that tend to side quest. You know, I will do this, and then all of a sudden I'm doing this. And, you know, it's like you're sitting in your room trying on hats you haven't worn in 10 years. Yeah. It's like, but you should be cleaning out your closet because you're trying to make more space, because maybe that has to do something with your intention, right? So I do think that it is very helpful. And, even, when you first start, even before you manifest, even before you do the lunar practice, just journaling on the different mood phases and learning about them and what the energy is in them. And then just seeing how you feel during them, because then you can plan that way too. And, for some people, the full moon is just very exhausting. It's just a lot of energy for them. So that, in my book, it is about release, but it's also about balance. And I have a tarot card for each moon phase. So for that one is actually the sun and the moon, because again, we're trying to harness that balance, because I wanted to kind of touch on, make it accessible to everyone, because if someone is not ready to do these big releasing and whatever on the full moon, it's just too much for them. Again, they might stall out. So it's just really giving you these options, these ideas, these perspectives, and ways that you can work with it that best works for you. And that your energy and best works for your energy, really, too.
Yeah, 100%. And that goes like above and beyond anything else. I think it's always listen to your own body, like your own little avatar. Yes, you are a soul in this body, but we've still got to pay attention to it, because it's going to give you the signals. And I find this a lot, especially with like my male clients as well, because obviously their cycles are very different, their energy is very different. So it's like, okay, well, you don't have to like stick to that schedule if it doesn't match what your body's telling you. Like listen to yourself first. But I think through working with nature in general, I think that helps you listen to yourself more as well, because it can be so noisy otherwise. And especially like you mentioned earlier, what I call like the spiritual theater and the performance side of it, which you're absolutely right. COVID did kind of spark a new sort of boost of that. And like, okay, this is interesting.
Got a new cast of characters.
It was a whole new cast. There's whole new shows coming out from that time.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. And I think that, it's even down to having, your social media. If you want to post about this stuff, you can. Some people find it helpful to post. It kind of gives them accountability. So that's great, but it doesn't need to be this beautifully curated, perfect looking thing. If you just post this candle and whatever, and you're like, I want to bring in blah, 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 just to do it, just to have it, give yourself that. That's all that really matters. And I think that people kind of get lost in the sauce with that, and making sure everything's really pretty and beautiful and wonderful. And they take, it's like they take a time, take 30 minutes editing this like 15-second post, Meanwhile, it's like, friend, you could have been doing all of this spell work or doing some actions or doing something for you. But meanwhile, you're too busy doing this. So it almost checks you in that way, I think, by doing the moon work. And, like I said, I have tarot spreads in there too, and all of that to kind of just bring it all in and be like, okay, this is what we're doing. Why am I doing this? How am I doing this? And then the self-care part, during the dark moon, a lot of people want to just skip over that. Like, I don't need to do that. That's fine. But it's so important for the integration part of things, and to have that rest so that you can start with the new moon again, and either continue your intention and build on it, or create a new one. It's up to you. It's really up to you. And I think that's the great part of just all that we do, is it is up to you. And if you do get through part of a moon cycle and you're just not feeling it anymore, then you just stop, and it's okay, because you know what, it's going to happen again in a couple of weeks, and you could just but I do think it's important when we get to those points too, is to really sit down with it and try to find out why. Is it a resistance thing? Is there a block there? Is it a mindset thing? Is that moon phase for some reason really hit you? And maybe dive into that, and maybe see what the astrology was going on around you, the zodiac of it, and all of that too. Is, there's so many things that you can bring into it if you want. Or else you don't have to worry about it. And I do include astrology in the back, and nothing complicated. This is very much like user friendly. We're not getting into like super crazy things, because it is mostly for people who are just starting.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think it's a gorgeous place to kind of start with this work as well, because for whatever kind of level you're at in your exploration, I think it's gorgeous. But having said that, at the time of recording this, the astrology is a little bit intense at the moment. So when this episode gets released, we will have just ended the year of the snake, coming into the year of the fire horse.
Yes, thank goodness. I'm a snake and I want it over. I'm good. I'm set. Thank you. Goodbye.
Let me out. I'm an Aquarius, so the last couple of months for me have been just insanity, and it's the age of Aquarius, but flipping heck, what are we doing?
No. It's a lot. It's a lot.
So anyone else who's feeling this, it's okay.
Yes, it's okay.
There's a lot of energies around us right now, which is also a lot.
Ground, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. I always say with this stuff as well, like if you're feeling nothing, then give us some of that so we can have a bit of a rest. But also, I think it's really important never to use it as an excuse. I've had this so many times where people are like, oh, well, if Mercury's in retrograde, I can't launch, or I can't send an email, or I can't go on holiday. And I'm like, can we just stop with the outsourcing of this? Because that you've kind of missed what astrology's kind of about.
Exactly. Yes. And that is something, I mean, and that freezes people. And it's really too, I think, when people get super attached to their zodiac signs, and that it's like, oh no, this is my personality right here. This is, I'm a Libra, and that's it. I'm just a Libra and that's it. And it's like, but actually all of the planets are in your chart. So you are all of it, there's some a little bit louder than others, but you are all of it. So I do think that, not getting stuck in that is so important. And like you said, like it's, it's always like the memes, like, okay, Mercury's at a Gatorade, it's all your fault kind of thing, and I always laugh at those, but it's just an awareness, like just be aware of what's going on. Like it shouldn't stop you, but it's just having that kind of extra tool to know when, all right, I'm going to still do what I got to do, but I'm just going to be aware that, maybe it may be a little extra glitchy, or maybe it won't. Like, why even worry about it? Just note it. Okay. Noted. Moving on.
Yeah, for sure. I almost view it like a news channel. So I don't watch the news here in reality, in the Muggle 3D. I don't watch this news, but I will look at like the astrological goings on, and I will view that almost like a news report. And I'm like, okay, that's good to know for the collective.
Yes.
So we kind of know what's going on.
Right. And it isn't like, again, it's having that structure, but not being tied to it. Yeah. And, and I think that some people are like, oh my gosh, like we're going into Aries, the whole thing going on with all the planets and stuff. And it's like, everybody's like, all right, well, I'm not going to leave my house. I'm not going to do this. And I'm like, oh friend, no. Cause if it's going to happen, it's going to happen regardless. That's the universe. That's just what it is. Like, don't worry about it. But I do think it's good to know. And I think it's a lot of it is just, it's interesting. Yeah. It's just like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then if you look at the history of back, like a lot of what was happening the last time it happened was in the Civil War in the US. Like, that's interesting, Okay, let's see. And it just gives you something to think about and whatever, but don't like, start preparing a bunker, sort of thing. I mean, maybe it's not a bad idea, but I probably won't be doing that. I'm too lazy. So
we're good. No.
But it is, I think, again, it is just that other perspective of things going on. And, astrology doesn't care what's going on right now. It's going to tell you what's going on right now, but it doesn't care. It's not going to lean either way. And it's not going to say, yeah, stay home. Yeah, go out. It's going to be like, no, this is just what it is.
Yeah, this is what's happening.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see how it affects other people, just like the moon phases do. Just like, again, the different moons, each moon there's a zodiac attached to it. So it's just interesting too to see how that affects you and other people. And then you can also use the different moons that come around to manifest certain things. Like if we have like a Capricorn moon, maybe that's you start doing some intentions towards creating something new, like they're going to be new regardless, but like a new business or something that's that Capricorn energy, like, okay, because then it's like just giving it that little extra boost. And then you get to learn about the different, signs, which, some people don't know that. And then you can always dive into your moon sign and all of that, because that's really interesting. Or even when what phase it was in when you were born, because that was really interesting to do. And like, I was born under the harvest moon, the full harvest moon.
Oh,
Birthday's in September. So I know that, you know what I mean? So for me, I know when that's coming around, when that full moon, because it's not going to land on my birthday every year, you know, but when that moon comes around, to me, that's a little bit more special. That's like kind of like my New Year's, you know, like I might go big on that one. So I think it's, again, just giving options, and then you can just do what you want with it. And I think that's great. And I think learning about astrology is great, because it does help you to, you know, understand people, and, you know, it just as a whole, like just the different personalities that are out there. And I think that's really important too, is when we understand other people, we understand ourselves better.
Yeah, 100%. It definitely helps you like relate to other people and have a bit more compassion, I find.
Yes,
to
definitely.
them, and like what's going on for them as well. Like if they are being majorly influenced by the current goings on, then you can have that compassion and understanding for them, which I think is key.
Yeah, because
and also for ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely need to do for ourselves more. But I think too, yeah, because then you understand, like it's not affecting, you know, I think just even realizing that sometimes we get so caught up in our own heads, we don't realize that things affect other people differently, physically, mentally, all of that. And I don't think we do that. Like, it's not like a bad thing. It's just, we're so used to our own little inner world that we forget that, oh, you know, Jan over there, she gets to the new moon and she sleeps for 3 days, you know, and like, oh shit, all right, sorry, okay, yeah, let's for you for this, you know, and but you never would have, you know, you don't think about that because you're like, oh, the new moon, I'm ready to go, and you know, and all of that, but not everybody's like that. So no. I think it's, you know, I think it's definitely so important. And then just when you do your, you know, if you read for people, if you're coaching people, if you're, you know, do any sort of energy work and stuff like that, just being able to be more open, I feel like then you can tune into other people better too.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's lovely, like when you were saying, like you can learn about different signs and things, and I almost see it like you borrow the energy of that sign. So yes, we all have these aspects in our charts, but it's almost like for anyone who works with like the deities or goddesses or like the archetypes, even in the tarot, like we can borrow that energy. So even if anyone's listening to this and you're like, I feel nothing. I get nothing with lunar cycles, with astrology, like nothing. Like you can look where things are. So like, look what season we're in. So right now we're in Aquarius, soon to be in Pisces, and you might be like, oh, like I'd love to be like more innovative or a little bit more rebellious. Like you can borrow like that Aquarius energy and be like, I'm going to try like this for a little while and see how this fits.
Absolutely.
I think that's a really nice way of like working with it. If you're not like naturally in tune to it and you're not having that response, you can just play with it and be like, yeah, I'm going to be more Pisces. I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to think about my dreams. I'm going to allow myself to get into flow a little bit more and be less like structured. Great, play with it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just igniting parts of yourself that are actually already there, you know, and bringing them to attention. And then, you know, as you do that, you're going to probably learn something about yourself, 100%. You know, and I think that's an awesome thing. And, you know, if you have, you know, if everything's around you, the complete shit show right now, and you have to like, you have to be like, oh, I gotta rally. I gotta do this. You know what? Well, maybe you're going to go ahead and just get some emperor energy going on in the tarot and be like, you know what? I'm putting my boss pants on and we're going to make decisions. We're going to do the things because everything around me is so crazy and chaotic that I'm just getting lost in it like a little tornado, you know? So it's so, you know, we have so many tools and so many things available to us. And I feel that once we get past worrying about knowing about every little thing about it and doing everything in that perfect way, then you could really start like getting to it, you know, and doing what you want to do and how you want to do it. And like you said, you're just harnessing these different energies, igniting these parts of yourself. And, you know, you have to give yourself credit for that to be even able to do that. And in a month's time, you know, if you're sitting at the dark moon reflecting and you're like, holy crap, like I really did really great with that. I did, harness that emperor energy, and we were able to get that all sorted. That's really great. And I did that because I was able to step back and allow that energy to guide me. And we have, you know, just like if you are working with deity, it's like you have all of these things around you to help guide you and, you know, focus your energy. So it's just being open to it and just letting it happen. And, you know, sometimes it goes great and sometimes it doesn't go how you want, but that's okay, because at the end of that, you can again reflect on that and be like, why wasn't I happy with that result? And you can probably come up with an answer and be like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's something I need to look at. Maybe that's a limiting belief that I have that I need to change. And a lot of times that does happen around money. You know, a lot of people get freaked out about money, and, you know, you see, you know, what was passed down to you in that money mindset. And, you know, when you go to manifest, you know, everybody always thinks right away it's money. And, you know, a lot of times it is, but it's really not. There's so much more. Yeah. And as you start getting into it and you start really working on these different manifesting these actions, and, you know, if you're working with the moon cycles or pulling cards, and you're going to see these things are going to pop up like, oh, you know, maybe the tarot's going to suggest that you start working on your credit, and you were told by your great grandpa Joe, like, nope, they're going to scam you. They're going to take all your money. They're going to show up at your house, and that's going to be in it. Just put it under your mattress. Don't even have credit and forget it. Right. And some people, like, it's really interesting that some people really listen to that. Like, they really think that that's true. And so, okay, you know what? Well, your intention just changed for this manifesting cycle, because now you're going to start working on this limiting belief and getting past it and understanding it, because then you'll be able to kind of go on after that.
Yeah, I think that's such an important part of, like, not just the moon cycles, but the fact we are cyclical beings, and we often forget that last, like, reflective piece, and we just go straight on to, like, the next, like, well, what else do I want now? Like, what's next for me? What do I have to do next? It's like, let's just complete the cycle. Right. So you actually have the full picture, and then you actually get the momentum to keep going as well.
Yeah. And it's like even in my book, like at that part, I'm like, don't skip this part.
Do not skip this page.
Just humor me. Okay. Just read it at least. And I think, you know, and even just after the full moon, where you're bringing that release, that balance, you have kind of those like waning cycles going. Some people just want to rush through that because they know it's like coming to an end. Okay, well, it's not, you know, but it's like, that's where like the meat and potatoes are, is at that end cycle, because it's not new and shiny anymore as it isn't the new moon, you know. It's more like we're getting to it, and those are your big last pushes of your intention, what you want to manifest, what you want to bring in, and it's starting to really that manifestation is shaping itself at that point. So you can take stock and see what's happening, and then kind of go from there. And if you rush through that, you're going to miss so much, you know, and most likely you're going to miss some good opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will not skip that part of the book.
Skip it.
Oh, brilliant. So I have a final question for you. As you know, every guest leaves a question for another guest. So this is actually very fitting for the time with leaving that beautiful snake behind. So the question is, what identity did you have to release in order to become the version of yourself that you are now?
I think it really was just being scared of the unknown. For me, I was on my own also at 14. So I was homeless. I kind of just lived, I wasn't on the street, but I lived with different friends until the parents kicked me out. And so I think, and it was really just releasing, just being scared, but also knowing to trust myself. And that was like so important, trusting my intuition and being able to, you know, now most people can kind of do it in a slow roll. I kind of had to do it really quick and young. So I think that was really a big thing for me. It's just really that. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Thank you for sharing that, my lovely. And for anyone who wants to pick up your gorgeous new book, where can we get our hands on this masterpiece?
Everywhere. You can get it anywhere books are sold. Your bookstore, local bookstore. If your local bookstore doesn't have it, ask them to order it. It's published by Llewellyn. So it's, it's a big publisher. They're all over the place. And we love when you support your local bookstores. So definitely see if you can get it through them. And yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. You could, honestly, if you just search Jen Sankey or Stardust Wanderer Tarot, I'll pop up in all the places because it's been a lot of work getting all that stuff out there, but it's there. And so that's probably the best place to
amazing
dates and all that good stuff.
Perfect. And we will, of course, pop all your details in the show notes as well, so people can find you and connect with you. But thank you so much. This has been a gorgeous conversation, and I wish you every success with the book. I can't wait to read it as well. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me on. This is so much fun. And thanks everyone for listening.
No worries. Okay. Thank you to our beautiful listeners, and we will catch you on next week's episode. Bye.
Bye.
Manifestation has evolved, and if you're seeing this, it means that you have too, because you have consciously connected to this information because you are ready to receive it. Now, you're probably finding that your old tools and techniques are no longer manifesting for you in the way that they used to, and this is because you have connected to a higher level of consciousness, and you know that there is much more to manifesting than what you have been taught so far. And as a witch, it pains me to say this, but manifestation is not magic. It is about science, and it is about energy. And that is exactly what I'm going to teach you in my free workshop that you can sign up for right now, where we're still going to look at your favorite tools, but we're going to make sure that they're not hindering you. And we're also going to look at your tarot as a psychological mirror, so you can diagnose your current energetic frequency and how that is actually impacting on what you are manifesting right now. And then we're going to go one step further, and we're going to catch you into that higher consciousness, so you can see how I bridge the science and the spirituality as a psycho-spiritual manifestation coach, which is what no one else is going to teach you and no one else is going to share with you. So do sign up to the free workshop, and I will see you there, so we can make sure your manifestations are inevitable, repeatable, and most importantly, reliable.